Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Crowley,
And I'm Mike Smith.
and this is The Murder Project. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 52 of The Murder Project. This is going to be the debrief episode on the Tyler Hadley case. We're glad to be back with you guys. We had a short little break that was unscheduled, but we're back in here and we're ready to go. If you guys are new to the podcast, the debrief episode is where I sit down with my good friend and former police officer Mike Smith to discuss the cases further. In the debrief, we discuss cases from both sides of the aisle, theories that we might have, and anything that we think needs a second look. The debrief is an unscripted and off-the-cuff commentary about the cases that we are currently covering. The hope of the debrief is to break the cases down further, but in a relaxed environment with the true crime we love, but also some laughter. So let's get the episode started. Mike Smith, back in the house.
I am indeed. It's had to take a little time off because last week I just got absolutely obliterated at work.
Yeah, just schedule did not line up for that one.
No, I didn't even got off. I got off work with 30 minutes to spare before it was time to record, and I was just so whooped anyway. I just thought
you got to be like 14 hours in by then, right?
Yeah.
15 hours in. I mean, if you count the time that you have been awake.
It was 14 and a half by then.
Yeah, so I can understand whenever you called me and you're like, I could still hear you driving, not in your pickup, but in your big truck. I was like, right. Things aren't going good right now.
No, they're not. No, on my Wednesdays, it's just a lot of miles and a lot of workload, and we're going into the summer, which means caseload goes up. Not a recipe for having a lot of free time.
Yep, and it's also mowing season for me as well.
That's
so
right.
With my regular job and then mowing, our schedules are already tight as it is, both of us. So if we get some anything gets hung up, then we usually got to wait till the next go round. I don't know if that's on there or not, but
I don't hear it in my earphones.
It's really cool that it's 30 seconds long.
That is really cool. I almost think it'd be funny to leave it in.
Yeah.
And for those that are wondering, it's his washing machine telling him that it's done washing.
It's done washing. Yeah, we're right there by it. So if you can hear it, if we can't hear it, I'm going to cut it out. But anyways, so we got caught up, but we're back in. We're back at the dining room table, the studio.
This is actually another one of the handful of cases that I listened to much like early on. Like I didn't start even listening to podcasts until 2017.
Yeah.
And this was one of the first ones I listened to. And I've heard it through multiple sources. I'm sure anybody has in the world of true crime. And it just totally blew me away because this is a deeply troubled young man. That in hindsight, you can see that, but at in the moment, I don't think anybody did.
Yeah, I don't think his friends were taking him seriously when he was talking about certain things. I think that a lot of us say things sometimes that just in general you can count as joking.
Yeah.
Jokingly. And at this age, I know me and my friends were saying all kinds of things about all different kinds of stupid stuff. And,
sure.
No, there wasn't text messaging, so
yeah,
can't go back and find that. But we said a lot of different things that may have been taken the wrong way. The only difference between some of the things that we might have said when we were younger, or even today that we mean in a joking way, Tyler was not so much joking in the things that he was saying.
He had clearly created this scenario in his head where this all go no stop party he was going to throw was being blocked like all the way by his parents, and they were a barrier that had to be removed so he could achieve this dream. He even talked about it with a few people. Like we said, these aren't people that I don't think anybody except for maybe his friend Michael who took the picture with him, and maybe a handful of others, most of which aren't even mentioned, even knew Tyler Hadley very well.
That's funny that you say that, because the more that I kind of got into this story and the more that I started looking at it, it just seemed like he had a lot of acquaintances.
Yeah.
Not really a whole lot of friends.
He gives me the impression, just from what I've listened to and read in my research, that he was somebody who put on a mask anytime he was in a social situation, because underneath he was deeply troubled. His parents knew that, and they tried to get him help, which is great. But I mean, what we'll learn is that I believe all the damage was already done.
Yeah.
He was already the person that was going to commit this brutal act. But there are no signs. His parents had no signs. He was still hanging out with them, taking pictures with them, traveling with them,
going to dinner, doing all the things that you'd normally do.
But always present in the back of his head was that he had to remove this barrier. His parents were a barrier that had to be removed so he could bring to life his vision of this teen party. Party.
Yeah. And I got a question for you. I was thinking about this the other day. Do you think that the thought of him, that he wanted to kill his parents, that thought was always in his mind, and the icing on the cake was the party? Or do you think that's all kind of just tied in together?
I don't know Tyler Hadley well enough, even from what we've learned and what we know now, to actually answer that. I look at it as they're linked.
Yeah.
Because his parents have probably gone out of town before and he didn't throw the party. He's probably had time to do it where his parents wouldn't be around for whatever reason, still didn't do it. It's only after he murdered them that he decided to do it.
And the consequences would have been very bad for him had he done something like this at this level, for sure. I mean, if you've gone back and looked at any of the pictures, in which I made the picture of him and Michael together, I put that on our social media page as kind of our cover for the episode. I didn't realize I was going to do that when I was recording the episode, but that kind of gives you an idea of. But if you go back and look at some of those pictures of the house, you're like, cool. I mean, even if you just dial that way down, he still would have been in super trouble. So maybe that's why he never kind of got into that, like dabbled in that area of throwing parties when his parents are out of town, because when they got back, like I said, his mother was the disciplinarian. And I mean, even at the time, right leading up to all of this going down, she had taken his cell phone away because he had gotten in trouble. And that's one of the things I wanted to bring up in this episode, is that, so I think in the last episode I said is when he went on vacation with his family in Alabama. It was actually Georgia, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I think you're right, yeah.
Okay. And so I believe I said Alabama. Love that whole area anyways. But
beautiful.
If I got that wrong, I apologize. And then there was another deal I was reading today before we got ready to do the episode, and it was like talking about how he had issues with an eating disorder
when he was younger. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was, and then also the part that I was trying to tie in is also that his mother was trying to get him put on some sort of like growth hormones because she wanted him bigger. And so I was trying to figure out, when you read these kind of snippets of these pieces, it doesn't kind of give you the whole, story. So, and that's what I think in the first one, I was like, I'm not really sure if the eating disorder came before the growth hormones deals or the vice versa.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was.
It actually came from something really bizarre, because he was referred to by a physician as sturdy when he was younger, and he took that to mean that he was fat. And it deeply affected him. This was obviously, even at the core of his being, Tyler Hadley's obviously very sensitive. He had a lot of issues, and it was very important how he was perceived by others. And funny enough, the biggest problem he had was how he perceived himself, because he thought he was fat, because he was referred to as sturdy. So he, went on crash diets and got, hormone therapy to be as skinny as possible. And that's really sad to me.
Yeah.
Because I was always referred to as sturdy, and about every variation you get growing up.
Anybody ever say husky?
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. No.
Yeah.
Do they even make husky clothes anymore?
I don't know. I remember them though.
You're husky until you're after puberty night, and then you're fat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that being very specific, because after you start wearing men's size clothes, now you're just fat.
Yeah, and they're like, you could lose a few pounds if you wanted to.
Yeah, you can get away. I'm not scrawny or skinny by any means, but that was a very clear line. It was fine until I was a grown up. until I was a quote unquote man. And then everybody was like, now you're fat. It didn't help that I joined the U.S. Army.
Yeah.
So they have pretty strict standards on stuff like that. Maybe not anymore.
Yeah.
From what I read on the onlines. But when I went in, yeah, it was rough.
They're like, hey, Mike, glad to have you. Glad you're here. Just a few deals we got to work out, some paperwork, some things like that. And also, I hate to say that. Is there any way you could lose a couple pounds, or is that yay or nay on that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. At my height, my maximum weight allowed was 178 pounds. And the last time I weighed 178 pounds was probably in the 8th grade.
Nice.
I'm just a big dude. And my lowest weight in the U.S. Army was 217 pounds.
Nice.
But I still could do everything I was supposed to do. So I didn't understand why it was such a big deal.
Yeah.
But that's a whole can of worms we're not going to get into today. But Tyler Hadley had some very deep, dark issues that he just had to get through, which led up to, and we did come to find out he was planning this for weeks. At least 3.
Yeah.
Because he had several people after he got his phone taken away. I'm getting ahead of myself. There were several people he talked to. One of them was a girl named Isadora, and the other one was a guy named Antonio. These are both people that he chatted with frequently. But really, were these his friends? I think they fall into the acquaintance category.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to read through like all the dialogue. I'm sure anybody that's listened to this case has heard it all before, but he speaks very openly about that he wants to have a party and that he doesn't like his parents and he wants to kill them.
Yeah, and he's got the one buddy that's like, did you do it yet? And he's like, no, but I'm going to. And he's like, bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, and then I'm going to throw a sick party afterwards. And his buddy's just like, heck yeah. You should do that.
That is really messed up. I mean, I had some pretty reckless friends or acquaintances when I was growing up, but I doubt any of them would have been like, murder? Cool.
Yeah, you should totally kill your parents.
Can we pop a bunch of pills and just get crunk after that? Because that sounds like a jam.
Yeah, that sounds like a great time.
And all the way up until he finally decided to do it. So he listens to that song. What was it called again? Feel Lucky by Lil Boozy.
Yep.
He gets himself all jacked up. He's also rolling on MDMA, ecstasy at the time.
Yeah.
So he takes 3?
It says like 3 or 4 pills, it's
right.
Like,
I've never taken ecstasy.
Tabs.
I imagine 3 or 4 is excessive.
I would think so.
For anybody. And man, he commits, and there's premeditation.
But I don't feel like ecstasy is one of those drugs that kind of gets you there. I could have considered cocaine, methamphetamines.
Isn't ecstasy also an upper?
Well, I guess it depends on usually it's like a feel good. You see people just.
That's the sad part.
Yeah.
To me, that would be the saddest part is that he wanted to be that, all his senses that awake while he beats his folks to death with a claw hammer.
Yeah, because ecstasy usually is one of those things I think of where it's like the party feel good. Like I've never heard anybody say like the way that I usually hype myself up to do something absolutely crazy is to take ecstasy.
Yeah,
I would have seen it. I would have thought of it a different way. But anyways,
whenever somebody talks about ecstasy, all I think of is Bad Boys 2.
Yes.
When they're riding in the Plymouth Prowler, and he's like, the leather's so supple.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah,
that's a great movie.
Yeah, heck yeah, it is. And so that's what I'm saying. Like that's what you think of. You don't think of someone. You think of someone that's like in the Susan Kuhnhausen case that we did, where the guy that she ends up beating to death and choking out in her house, was probably going to have a heart attack anyways due to his age, and he was hopped up on cocaine
and whippets.
And he had been taking a bunch of cocaine before he got to the house. Snorted a bunch of cocaine, not ecstasy.
No, you're right.
It's a weird deal, but yeah.
It is weird, but it's what he needed to...
I mean, obviously...
build himself up to this.
Yeah, it got him from A to B.
Right.
I mean, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about it.
That's right. And he goes and hides their phones, which, man, we like to think that somebody hid your phone, like my phone, your phone. Us modern adults, we would be like, where's my phone?
Yeah, I can see both of our phones right now.
That's right. My phone is hardly ever out of arm's reach.
Yep.
And that just goes to show you his parents, they were older and had no reason to think something bad would happen.
No attachment to this. They take it
Right.
out with them. They get home. They put it in the kitchen. They don't even think about it
Yeah,
again.
they put it on they probably have like a little island, a counter space, and they throw their keys and their phones on there. Yeah. And he takes those and he grabs his hammer. And then the most chilling part of all of this, as horrible as it is that he just stands behind his mom for what he claims is 5 minutes, even if it was 1 minute, 2 minutes. That's a long time to stand behind the woman who gave birth to you with a claw hammer, knowing you're going to bash your head in just so you could throw a party.
Yeah.
But he does it. And this is where something that I always get caught up on, just trying to think about like the details. So he starts attacking his mother. He hits her and she responds.
Right.
She says, "Tyler, why?"
Yeah.
And
you know there has to be some other sort of something else going. When she gets hit and then she gets hit again, even if it's just the Tyler why at first, I feel like there's gonna have to be some screaming involved after that.
Yeah, and she has defensive wounds, not as many as the father, but he's in the master bedroom at this time. So
He's probably in there watching Die Hard or something.
Matlock.
Yeah.
In the time it takes him to hear this and process it and come out to see
and then respond to it. Yeah.
Right. Tyler has already disabled the mom.
Yep.
I have no idea of knowing. I don't believe anybody really does know if she's dead right now.
Yeah, or if he finished her off afterwards.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if she's just heavily injured. I mean, obviously a blow to the head is terrible because he's using the claw portion of the hammer.
That's why I said in the first one that this had to be extremely messy.
Yeah. So
the claw portion of the hammer, that's not only impact, but it's also just going to be tearing.
Yeah. Because this is the part that always things up. He starts attacking the mom. She is trying to get away, defend herself she's surprised. She's, I can't imagine how stunned she was that this was going on, and physically from the blow to the head. The dad hears this. He comes out and sees this going on, and neither of these parents were prepared for this. It's so sad. He just goes, "Why?
Why? Yeah, why would you do that?" And you got to think, there's probably a part of him that's like, "I'm next."
I can't imagine the horror.
Yeah.
Because he's now seeing there's head wounds bleed notoriously badly. And so Tyler just turns right around and goes after him. And I believe it was like 64, 67, something like that, total wounds that the father had. The father who was bigger than him in size, weight, in every dimension.
Yeah.
And he still beats him to death right after that. This has to be minutes and minutes of intense, like physical combat that he has, from Tyler's point of view.
Right.
Because there's nothing easy about swinging a hammer with the intent to kill 60 plus times.
Yeah, and we have a picture of Tyler hours after the event, and he has no markings on him.
Yep.
Which says to me that it was all him.
Yeah.
And his parents may have defensive wounds, but it's purely just that. They just had their hands raised. They were trying to cover themselves, shield themselves in a way that you would naturally do, but they made no effort to try to return anything to him.
Yeah.
Like his dad, he gets whacked and his dad just right hooks him. That never happened.
Not even a little bit. These are two parents watching their child literally killing them, and they're so shocked. They never move past the OODA loop. They're just stuck in it. And their last moments on Earth are spent in utter shock. That's terrifying to me.
Yeah.
But that doesn't slow him down. He wraps their heads in towels. There's going to be a lot of fluid coming out.
Going to be a lot. And the thing is, at this point in time, the majority of it's already there.
Yeah.
And that's why I referenced in the part one. I think that the wrapping the heads in the towels I think you're right. It's a twofold.
Mm-hmm.
It is not only to prevent any further blood from, maybe coming out onto the floor, but it's also, I think, a way for him to disconnect and not have to see the face.
Absolutely.
Because in my opinion, when you go back to some of the later trials or the resentencing trials where he's kind of talking about how bad he feels about the whole thing. And I kind of feel like there's a piece of him that knows he had good parents, that they were trying to do right by him. And the older he gets, the worse this is probably going to come down on him.
Yeah.
Which it should. But I think in some sort of way, wrapping the heads is like, I think he cared for them in a small, weird way. I know it sounds weird, me saying that, because he just killed his parents. But I think he doesn't want to look at the faces.
No, he does. I'm also very sure about that. He does not want to see them. He lays them face down. He buries them in stuff like all the dirty towels, trash bags, clothes, the stuff from the lamp, the chairs, everything that he moved out of the room that was covered in blood spatter. He gets rid of them. He puts and it's as many barriers as he can, because I don't think, except in the moment that he decided to do it, that he actually wanted to. But he had created that scenario that I spoke about before, where where B is only going to be accomplished if A gets done first.
Yep. And he's already talked it up to his quote unquote friends.
There's that social pressure.
Yeah. He's already told everybody. And that's the thing. The night before, after the dinner, when he's talking to his friends, he tells them, I'm going to have a party at my house tomorrow. So it's almost like that. It's almost like maybe he feels an obligation to carry out. He's like, man, I don't want to look stupid.
That's right. Yeah. Because
I don't want to look stupid. Everybody thinks I'm going to have this party. I got to have this party.
Yeah.
I just have to kill my parents first.
That's another brick, like on his scales of like how he's perceived is very important to him. He wants people to think that he's cool, edgy, well off. These are things that he needs so badly that when he keeps saying this and nobody believes him. And not a single time does he talk about this party with all these people do they think it's for real, because they just know he's not capable of doing it. That's just more social pressure. He feels like he doesn't have any power. And so he has created the enemy to achieving that power. That was his parents.
Yeah.
And so he has to do that. To get to B, he had to do A, and A was his parents. So he does it, and it's terrible. And then he goes on and does a terrible job cleaning up. Yeah. Because he knew he didn't have a lot of time. This was already so late in the evening when he decided to say, hey, hit me up.
Yeah, it's like around 5 p.m., I think, when he kills his parents.
Yeah.
Then he's got several hours that he has to try to clean all this up. Then he's got to clean himself up. Then he's got to prep for the part. Like, you're not giving yourself much time here.
No.
He starts telling everybody hey, party at my house, hit me up. And I think at that point, when we're talking about the initial kind of at the start of it, when the initial people show up, it's so small numbers, because I think you're right, because nobody was like, hey, he really is having this party.
Yeah, until the first couple showed up and threw out to their friends that it was legit, probably nobody believed him.
Yeah, nobody would have showed up either.
Yeah. And so, he's getting what he wants, I guess.
Imagine, because think of this scenario. Imagine people did take him seriously and they showed up at 8.
Oh, Lord.
Or something like that, right? But you don't hear about that. You don't hear about anybody showing up to this party because nobody believed that it was going to be real.
That's right.
That if someone would have showed, they were like, man, what time's that party at? Let's just go over there and see what's going on. And he's just got this blood-soaked towel. He's just smearing it across the living room, the kitchen floor. And he's like, oh, hey, guys, I'm going to need a minute.
Yeah. One segment, I spilled the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. I spilled a bunch of paint, Kool-Aid, tomato sauce. A lot of stuff happened. I was making spaghetti. I don't know. Can y'all just give me a minute?
Right, yeah. And then he goes on with it. Where did he get the booze?
That's
He's not old enough to buy it.
Right. So later on in the evening, he does go with one of his friend's older brothers to go get some more booze. So I think in the beginning, it's going to be a limited supply.
Like just what was laying around that was his folks?
That his friends brought to the party. Because I know at not long after the party started, they had to go do a beer run.
Right. I remember that. I'm saying to get the party started, that he must have had just what was laying around, or maybe he had already acquired it in preparation for this. I actually don't know the answer to that.
Or told some buddies, hey, bring some booze over to the house.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine
he did take some money from his folks, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think $5,000 or something like that. It was a lot of money that he took out of the ATM. And which is a crazy amount of money to me, because it said that he got it out of an ATM, which is usually limits on stuff like that. But anyways, I don't guess that's, too important to the story. We just know that he does.
Not in his community.
No, he does come across some of his parents' money, and he later uses that to buy more alcohol. So the way that I kind of looked at this was in the beginning, like when the party first started out, was they had some sort of recreational drugs that they already had on them, maybe a small amount of booze. The more people that start showing up, you can start like, hey, we're putting money together, or we need somebody that can go get us some booze, because these are all 17-ish year old kids. And so I don't think that the expectation would have been there to have, like 3 kegs or something like that already on location. I think it was kind of just it was thrown together last minute. So,
but he had tunes or playing tunes on the computer.
Yeah, we used to do that a lot
with the heavily gooey keyboard.
Yeah, which is crazy. People are like, dude, these people are filthy.
Yeah,
you guys are filthy. Someone spilled a Coke on this computer and y'all didn't even clean it up.
Yeah, and as the night goes on, and of course the party grows and grows and grows, and more of his acquaintances show up, and eventually his friend Michael, the one person that we do know is his actual friend, had known him his whole life since he was like 8 years old or something like that. And I'll say whole life.
Yeah, I think it was like 10 or 11 when they met each other.
Yeah. And
the majority of the people there, I think, so you're going to have maybe a friend or two, a few acquaintances, and then the rest of those people there just probably have no idea who he is based on what they did to these people's house.
Oh man, that's the part that is bonkers.
There was no respect anywhere in there, and that's where I feel like the majority of the people did not know him because they had no respect for the property.
Yeah, at all. They were the worst type of stereotypical rambunctious partying teenager.
Yeah, not even knowing the current situation.
Right.
They still trashed this house.
Yeah, the couch was blown out.
Yep.
It was broken and crushed. Cigarettes were being put out on the walls, on the carpet, down the garbage disposal, in toilets.
Yeah, just anywhere you think someone probably in a party could flick a cigarette or throw one on the ground or whatever. There was probably one there.
This house turned into an absolute den of iniquity, and Lord knows what was happening in all the spare bedrooms. Because as we come to find out, there's lots of drugs.
Yep.
There's lots of booze and
zero supervision.
And
you got some things based on when the police got there. You got some things happening in the bedrooms because there's a lot of beer cans. There's definitely people at a minimum hanging out in these locations. But we can assume that there's probably a little bit more going on.
Definitely.
In those areas. And that brings me to, a point that you and I talked about where I thought it was kind of strange that, let's just say, guy or girl, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They are like, hey, I'm meeting so-and-so over at the house. I think tonight's going to be the night. I'm out of my house. He or she's out of her house. We're going to make this happen. It's like, it's going down tonight. And we got the perfect spot. And then just finding out the next day that either the house you had sex in or the house you lost your virginity in, there's just 2 dead people just right down the hallway from you.
That's
like in the same house with you.
Brings up a very...
well, you're probably not going to tell that story a whole lot of times.
There's probably somebody that's a little bit older now that's like, I'm going to go ahead and forget that.
Yeah, that one, I think we can scratch that one due to circumstance.
I'm going to have a do-over.
Yeah, we're going to do a redo.
Yeah, that definitely. I mean, there was stuff like, there was people, I can remember having teen parties and looking back and being like, there's people in every shady corner of this double wide trailer making out.
Yeah. And I just think to myself, like, if you've ever seen the movie Can't Hardly Wait, which is one of the best movies ever.
It is a great movie.
That house looked like the house in that movie after it was all said and done. Like, it was a Can't Hardly Wait situation where all these people showed up. No one cares about what's going on. And they just trash this complete stranger's house. Just no care at all for personal property whatsoever. And then at the same time, in the beginning, you had Tyler, which was like, hey, everybody chill, go smoke outside. The party gets too big. And he's like, if the cops show up over here, I'm going to be in a very awkward situation. Okay, go ahead and smoke in the house. And then it's almost like at that point, all the boundaries are gone. Yeah, he's just like, hey, whatever.
Right. And he gets totally rolling on probably numerous different drug sources. and alcohol. And so his inhibitions are gone. He does not care anymore. And to a certain degree, I believe he was also surrendering to the fact that his life was going to be over. He knew that
soon.
Yeah, how much time was going to go by before he got caught. And eventually his friend Michael shows up. It's not till late.
It's later.
Yeah.
It's later after the party already starts.
And he's had all this time to process it in a probably a very strange way, because he's now getting the thing that he sought. He wanted this party. It's happening all around him. And now he's like, oh God, like, what did I do to get here?
I'm going to have to pay for this at some point.
Right. And he starts to freak out a little bit. And eventually he starts, he kind of makes little hints at it to people all night long, talking about where his folks are, just saying that they're gone. They left the house to him, which is absurd. I would never believe that ever in my life. If anyone told me that at that age, I'd be like,
you're a liar.
You're a liar. Exactly.
And he doesn't even try to keep the same story.
No.
He's got like three that we know of, three different stories that are floating around. His parents are out of town, or they're out. They went to Georgia. They left in the house. He's got all these different things going on. He's not even trying to keep his story straight. And I think you're right when you said, like, some of this is kind of starting to come down on, because other than burying his parents under a bunch of debris in their bedroom, he has made no effort to try to really cover up the crime.
Yeah, to get away with it.
Yeah, to get away with it, to dispose of the bodies, to do that thought is not even there.
No, he just wanted to get to the party, or to B. That was his goal. He did A, now he's doing B. There was nothing else. He was like, now what do I do?
He's like, I guess I go to prison after this.
And he does joke about that.
Yeah.
But his buddy Michael shows up. He hints at it a little bit. He even makes that statement like, if you look closely enough, you can see signs. Michael does. He eventually tells him, and then he shows him, and that's where Michael sees the leg. And this is a part that comes up a lot, that people are like, oh my God, I can't believe he did this. I'd never do that. It's because Michael doesn't report it right away.
Right.
And I know it sounds weird to say, but to me, it does not seem that unreasonable, because how Michael describes it is, he knows that somebody that's been his friend for most of his life is going to go away forever.
Yep.
He knows that. It doesn't really matter ultimately, because Michael is the one that called in the Crime Stoppers tip that put all this to rest. The damage was already done. If that offends people, I'm sorry, but it was. His folks were already dead. Nothing else bad was going to happen, because Michael made the Crime Stoppers tip. But eventually he takes that infamous picture where he takes a selfie in the garage, and then he hangs out for a little bit longer, probably in his own way, making peace with the fact that he's going to have to be the one to do this. And a lot of people like to act like they're above all that. To that, I say, take a much deeper look at who you were as a teenager. And I'm sure if all of us did that, we could look back and see a few times, a half dozen times, maybe more, where something very, very bad or weird or out of control happened, and you refused to say anything because you didn't want to hurt, offend, or bother the person you were doing it with. You had a friend, everybody had that kid growing up that you thought was your friend, but would just treated you like dirt, but you never said anything because you thought they were your friend. And now as an adult, you look back and you're like, I was dumb.
Yeah, that guy was totally not my friend.
Or, people that you value, friends that you have for a long time. Everybody can look back and think you measured your friends based on the time that you knew them. Like, this guy's been friends with me longer, so he's a better friend, right? No, of course not. Good friends are just that. They're good friends. You don't learn that till later. That's a piece of wisdom you get. So I think what Michael did is what most of us would do if you were in that situation. You're like, holy crap, he did kill his parents, and now I'm never going to see him again. And all trying to process all that just at a party when you're probably doped up and drinking, and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? This is so bizarre. This is unprecedented.
But he does make the decision that he knows that when he leaves, when all this is said and done, that he is going to call in and let the police know about what happened. And one of the things I think was kind of crazy was, like, while this party was going on, and the house is getting trashed and people are playing beer pong, and this ping pong ball is just rolling all over the floor.
Oh, yeah.
I heard one account where someone said like one of the kids said it like rolled under the table, the
Into some brown
office
sticky stuff.
yeah, under the office table into some like brown goo, and he just like wiped it off on his shirt and they kept going. But I kind of wondered, like, when Tyler was hinting at these things to Michael, and Michael's like, yeah, I can kind of see. I wonder if he did actually notice anything, because I think if anybody at the house would have noticed anything out of place, it would have been Michael. He obviously knew that the house did not look like it did the last time he was there because half of the furniture is missing.
Mm-hmm.
Because he would find out later on that it was probably covered in blood, or it had, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if they had like the old like popcorn ceilings in their house, but if blood got in that, it would be very noticeable. Like, you're not going to be able to get that off the ceiling.
You'd have to keep the lights low.
Yeah, you'd have to keep the lights low.
Shadows do all the work.
It's all in the floor. It's all over the place. I wonder if he actually did notice, or if that's just something that he added in later because no one else at this party noticed, or not to a degree that anything was mentioned. Like, there is mention of someone at the party saying, it smells like dead people in here, like making a joke, and Tyler's like, what? And he's like, oh, I'm just kidding, man. And everybody kind of laughs, and he's like, oh man, there is dead people in here, because there literally is dead people in this house.
I know people see that as like strangely, prophetically coincidental. I literally just think it was a teenager trying to say something funny.
Yeah, I think so. And then, so I think to myself, I wonder if he was piecing these things together, or if not, because Tyler basically had to walk him every step of the way, where he's like, yeah, there's some stuff going on. He's like, yeah, I kind of get that feeling too. And he's like, you see the ceilings? And he's like, yeah, it looks like you've got a bunch of crud up there or something. He's like, notice all that stuff in the floor and on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, come check this out. He opens up the door to his parents' room. And I can't imagine, like, can you imagine just opening up the door to his parents' room, and then there's just all this stuff everywhere? And he's like, what in the hell is going on? And he's like, is that a leg?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's actually my mom's leg.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, and to me, I also believe that I guess it depends on the situation, like from the way that you said it. But to me, I would have been wondering, like, oh boy, do I need to go?
Yeah.
Or, like, are we next? Is someone here next? But that's where I feel like Tyler gets away from that point of himself, where he went from killing his parents back to the normal guy that he was, because everybody at this party feels comfortable around him. His best friend, who he just showed the bodies of his parents to, does not feel threatened in any sort of way that he feels like he needs to flee from that location immediately. He goes out in the garage with him, cracks a few cold ones, takes a selfie, is like, hey, we need to get some quality time here, because you're about to go to prison.
Yeah.
Like, forever.
I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I'm saying, to me, it falls in the realm of reasonable.
Yeah, you can understand why he did what he did, and that's why I wanted to say, like, I feel like Tyler was acting in a way that was normal to at least the people who knew him, because nobody felt threatened by him that night. No one said anything about it. There were people afterwards that were kind of like, man, we thought something funny was going on over there. But I mean, who's not going to say that after the fact?
Absolutely.
They're like, I was at Tyler's house last night, dude. It was crazy. It's crazy party. There's like 100 people there. And dude, I had this weird vibe like all night.
Yeah.
And then, you're like, yeah, sure. I'm sure you did.
I think the worst part for me is the after. So, I mean, Claire, I'm getting ahead of myself again. So Michael does call Crime Stoppers. The police show up. They look through the blinds. They look through the windows, and there's Tyler, and they're just straight up having a conversation with himself.
Yeah. Just with him.
Right. He's probably trying to talk himself through. He's probably coming down off all those drugs. Maybe he's still rolling, and he's like, I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm completely lost. They make entry. They take him into custody. They don't know he's done anything yet. They look around. They're like, oh, weird. What's in here? It's locked. They make entry into that. Now they're like, boom, got him.
Yeah, they know what they've been told.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know if it's actually true. And Tyler, at this point, has already sent out another message saying, party again.
Yeah, but they plan on partying the next night.
Yeah, I mean, because what do you do at that point? That's what I was thinking to myself when I did the part one. I was like, he was probably sitting there thinking to himself, like, that was a good time.
Mm-hmm.
We should do that again.
That's right.
And he wants to let everybody know, like, hey, party at my house again. But Michael has already called Crime Stoppers.
Mhm.
So the processes are already in place for the police to show up and all of these things start to happen. And then we also have to remember that this is the second time that the police have been at the house.
Right.
And that's one of the things I kind of wanted to touch on with you, because we both kind of operated in this area, is, you know, when the call came in from the neighbor saying that there was a noise complaint party, however it was called in.
Oh, teen parties every weekend if you're a street cop.
And if you're a street cop, this is something, especially during the summertime, especially when school's out or anything like that. We've talked about it, especially 4th of July, any holiday, anything like that. But just in general, if school's out, if the weather's warm in general, call volume just goes straight through the roof.
Right. Everybody's out.
Everybody's out and about. Everybody's doing something. And so it just so happened that this call came in at a very good time, I would say, as far as the whole night goes. I'm not saying any of this is a good thing, but I'm saying as far as this party goes, it came in at a good time, because when someone mentioned to everybody at the party, like, hey, did y'all know so-and-so's having a party too? And they've already completely trashed this house out.
Yeah.
Like they've got what they wanted out of this place. Now there's an alternate to this party. We got another place we can go to. We can start fresh. Let's go over there. The majority of the people at the party leave.
Right.
Like it said, there's only like 15 to 20 people left when the cop shows up. So when the cop shows up, I don't know if he was, you know, if it was a 2-man, if 2 guys got sent over there, if it was just 1 guy by himself, whatever. But when he shows up, Tyler's like, hey, y'all go hide in my bedroom. They go hide in his bedroom. He opens the door. Cop's like, hey, we got a noise complaint over here. And that's what I feel. I felt like there was a few missed opportunities here, not because it would have changed what happened.
Of course.
Because like you just pointed out, what's happened already happened. That's not going to change. Tyler's parents could not be saved at this point.
Yeah.
But I think there was some missed opportunities there. I mean, when the kid opens the door, he's 17. He looks, from the picture I saw, he looks like a younger guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, cop's like, hey, we got a noise complaint over here. And he's like, oh yeah, had some people over, whatever, but they're all gone. And then from appearance, no one's there.
Right. But the place is obliterated.
I mean, the place is trashed. I'm serious. If y'all haven't looked at the pictures, you need to check it out, because it is completely trashed. And basically the cop's like, okay, well, if there's no party, I guess I'm out. You know, like I missed the party. We missed the window to catch all the kids to get it, you know, whatever the scenario was. But he's like, okay, I guess I'm out. And I don't know even if he kind of probed a little bit and been like, okay, well, let me see your ID. Okay, you're 17 years old. You're underage. Where are your parents at? They're out of town. Okay, that probably checks out, because otherwise this kid probably wouldn't be having a party. Okay, so what are you going to do? Are you going to write the kid a ticket? Are you going to take him to jail?
That's where you come.
Are you going to do nothing?
That makes me ask a couple more questions. Was he a newer officer?
Yeah.
Was he older? Did he not have the experience to ask more? Or was he old enough to know that this is not
something that he needed to care about?
This is every Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah. This happens every weekend.
Yeah.
Like,
because
there's another party. Like, hey, can you be en route to this location on a noise complaint? And you're like,
yeah, I can.
There we go.
You have to develop some very certain sneaking skills if you want to catch teens at parties, because they know that if they shut and lock the door and they close the blinds and they turn the lights off and you don't have a reason to kick that door in, you ain't coming in.
No. And there's only so long you can wait there.
That's right.
And so that's what everybody, I know someone says, like, why is everybody's like, turn the lights off like we're not in here? No, we turn the light. We know you're out there.
Yeah. We're going to wait you out.
And you can't come in here.
That's right.
We're just going to wait you out. And the cops are like, we're going to write down all the license plates out here, and we're calling every single one of your parents. See if the door opens. All right, any vehicle that's parked 18 inches or more off the curb is going to be towed. And you start going through all these, and that's what I'm saying.
Like you reach in your little toolkit here, and you start pulling all these things and trying to draw these people out. But ultimately, if they ain't coming out, then you only have so much time. Unless you plan on making a case out of it or writing citations, you got to get back in service.
Yeah, and unless you're really quick. And by quick, I mean fast on your feet.
That's right.
The best way to get caught at a party after the police show up is by running.
That's right.
If you just stay in the house, there's nothing they can do.
Mm-hmm.
They have no probable cause to go into the house. And I know there's someone probably listening on here that was from some town or some area that's like, nuh-uh. We was at a party when the cop just kicked the door in and came in. And then I'm going to say, okay, well, maybe that didn't work out so well for you guys. But for the majority of people, it's going to go the other direction where the cop's going to, he's going to be like, what's going on here? He's like, well, I had a party, but everybody left. He's like, all right.
I can tell you a specific scenario that I was in.
Keep the noise down.
Yep.
If I have to come back.
Keep the music down. No peeling out.
Yeah. Tear anybody's stuff up. If I have to come back, take everybody to jail. Y'all hear?
We're bringing the bus out here.
Yeah. I'm going to get the vans out here. I'm taking every single one of you to jail.
Y'all be scared. Have a good night. I can remember a very specific scenario where this party, they've been calling all night, multiple calls in a row. But these kids were good. And so I waited and I turned down my radio and I hid in the bushes, and they had like a hedge, like the elephant grass they got.
Oh, yeah.
And a group of kids walked by and they were chatting. I just walked out behind them, kind of crouched down and followed them to the door. And as soon as I got to the door and they walked in, I just stood up and said, police. And that kid, full body weight, tried to slam that door on me, but I already had my foot in the door.
Yep.
So the only reason I did that is because I saw people I believed to be juveniles. Spoiler alert, they all were drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
Very visibly. That's why I made entry. If I hadn't seen that, I had no right to do that, because that's what it comes down to. If you're going to follow the law, unless you see one being broken, you can't just be going into people's houses.
Oh, yeah. We had a cop one time in Midland that I was over there at a party one time. And at this time, I believe I was already 21, but there were some people there that weren't. But he never knocked on the door. He never announced presence. Nothing. Just smooth. He just waited on the side of the apartment door. It's kind of similar to what you did, but he didn't have to hide. He was just waiting there. And someone's like, all right, well, we're going to run to the store. And they open up the door. The door opens inside.
Yep.
And he just, I just see him do like a 180 turn from the wall. And he's like, what's up, y'all? And we're like, oh, man. He walks in. He's like, what y'all doing? Got a noise complaint over here.
That's exactly what you sound like when you do that. You're so pumped. You're like, got him.
Yeah. He's like, so what are y'all doing? He's like, all right, I'm going to need to see some IDs. Got a noise complaint over here. There's a lot of partying going on. And not all of y'all look 21. So they start like giving out IDs. Like, all right, here's the deal. Every single bit of that booze is going to get poured down the drain.
That's right. That's a go-to right there.
Yeah. Nobody gets tickets. Nobody gets in troubles. Nobody's parents. He's like, all that alcohol right there, pour it down the drain. And everybody's just cracking beers and pouring them down there. And then, when I actually worked in law enforcement, you're right. Those kid parties were always really tricky, because like as soon as you're enemy number one, like they know that the only way that their good time gets interrupted is by you.
Is the cops. Yeah.
And so it's like one of those deals where if they see flashlights or they see you walking up and it's just like, and everybody's gone. The door shuts, the lights go off. The
blinds get drawn. You can hear them all in there hushing.
Shut up. I went out to a party one time.
It's so funny.
Yeah, and as an adult, as a police officer, if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking like, that's not right, listen, it's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah,
working that side, like
it is.
Being on that side. Like I showed up to a party one time, and I worked out in the county, so. A lot of times, if you had parties, there'd be wide open areas that people could run into, things like that. Well, I show up at this party, kids running everywhere. And as I'm walking, we're like, hey, some of the kids that got caught, they were caught. Some of the kids were hiding, whatever. Like you said, we're not going to stay there all night.
Yeah.
So as I'm walking back to my car, I see these two kids and they're walking towards me. And I see them and they see me and I'm like, hey, guys. And they're like, and they turn around real fast. And I'm like, guys, hey guys, police, come here, police, hey guys. And I'm shining my flash, waving my flashlight, doing all this stuff. And I'm like, hey guys. And then they both take off running. And so, I'm in pretty good shape at the time.
Yeah.
I'd been doing my, I wasn't doing P90X. I was doing the other one. It was one of those Beachbody deals that came out with Sean T.
What is the other one?
I was doing that one at the time where it's like total body workout and you get all this stuff. I was like feeling good. So I take off running that and I catch up to both of them right as they get to this like 8-foot metal fence, and it's solid metal.
Yeah.
To keep in like animals and stuff. Well, the guy is just like whooping over his girlfriend. He's like, sorry about your bad luck. He just leaves her. He just leaves her right there. So I'm like, all right, hey, show's over. And I was like, come on back with me. She starts walking back over. I was like, who was that guy? Was that your boyfriend? She's like, yeah. And I was like, he just left you like that? And she's like, well, I couldn't make it over the fence. And I was like, maybe try. I don't know if I date that guy. I'm just saying I'm just going to let you know up front, you're not in any trouble. I'm not going to write you a ticket or anything. We're just coming out here to break up a party because we had to.
Yeah.
I'd probably reevaluate your situation.
You could just not just giving out justice, he's also giving out love life advice.
Yeah, some dating advice.
That's right.
Like, find me a different guy.
Yeah, you can find you a guy that isn't going to just hop an 8-foot metal fence and never look back.
Never look back for her.
He sure did.
I mean, I heard him hit the ground and then immediately, like he hit the ground and he was running. He never thought twice about his girlfriend that he left behind on the other side of the wall. And he's like,
I wonder how much longer that relationship lasted. That's so funny.
Hopefully not much past that. But he's like, she gets in and she calls him. She's like, I can't believe you. He's like, I'm sorry, honey, but in some situations, you're the bait.
That's right.
Yeah. I knew when I ran off, all I had to do was be faster than you.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways.
We got pretty distracted with some reminiscing, but
yeah. So what I'm saying is that, yeah, maybe a missed opportunity when the police officer shows up, but
more than likely that nothing was going to happen there anyway.
No.
It was already quiet. The reason he's there, that problem is now over. He's not going to open the door and be like, any dead people in here?
Yeah, you guys have got dead people in here?
Right. I mean, there's just no way to know. Could he? Sure.
You could have worked an angle.
Yeah, you could have worked your way to get in there. But he's like, it's quiet. The place is trash. That is a telltale sign that the party has gone on, is that the place is a dump.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, okay, well, as long as you be quiet, if I get called back out here, man, I'm going to take you to jail. See you later.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to talk to you very sternly.
I mean, you could look at it as a missed opportunity, sure, but I think it falls into the realm of reasonable.
Yeah, that was also reasonable. So as we kind of get, moving past that, Tyler's friend Michael does make the call. He reports it to Crime Stoppers. The call is out on the old interwebs. I listened to it today, but he was just saying like, hey, I went over to my, just to give you a summary of it. He's like, hey, I went over to my friend's house. Some things happened over there. I think his parents are dead. And he said that he had already called you guys, or he was going to call you guys. I didn't know if that was true or not, but I was just going to see if y'all to go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady on the phone does not seem totally interested, oddly enough, in what he has to say.
Because he sounds young. Maybe she thinks it's a prank.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking to myself when I listened to it. She was probably thinking to herself, like, well, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
Another kid got dared to do something. Right. He called Crime Stoppers and said, there's some dead people over in this house. Hey, we got to go check this out. And they're like, yeah, we'll go check it out. And then that leads us up to what you were just talking about, where they walk into the house. Tyler's acting a little weird, but they go and they kind of jimmy open the door, and they see the bodies of his parents. And they're like, all right, we got us. This is a real one.
This is legit. Yeah. And, after that, all the details kind of come out. I don't think anything's really left to the imagination. I think Tyler even, confesses to it.
Yeah. I think there's definitely still some gray area where he may have interjected some things that maybe weren't true or to the best of his recollection.
Sure.
But we got the gist of it. We know, we know the basic facts. The fact of the matter is that he took a claw hammer and he murdered his parents with it.
Just to have a party.
So that he can throw a party. And I think that is definitely up there on the list of like most terrible reasons to kill somebody.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I also think there's a bit of privilege in there. Like he thought he was owed that and his parents were preventing him from it. And I don't see any other word that fits that. I don't mean privilege like it gets thrown around a lot today. I mean, he was so sure that he had to have that he was willing to kill his parents. Some part of him thought he was owed that somehow.
Yeah.
And to me, that is bizarre.
And to know, and the thing that gets me is like to know that it's a 1 or at best 2 event
Yeah, because
situation.
party 3 is going to be stanking.
It is gonna be stanking
If
in there.
homeboy from party 1 said I'd be smelling dead people at party 3, he would be correct. He was correct the first time, but if you know, you know. He would have been correct.
Yes, he would have absolutely been correct. And that it didn't go past that, the thought process. And I know we've said this in several episodes where like, man, they didn't really think much past it. And what's crazy to me is that how often that happens.
Right.
Where the initial act is so severe that it is going to not only alter the lives of many people, but your own. Like he knows he's going to go to prison for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
To throw a party. And he's like, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, you're only in high school once. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I can't think of another way he got to that scenario where it's like, this is make or break for me.
Where people,
I have to do this.
Where people were talking about the most awesome party they ever went to for 12 hours. Because after that, their parents probably come in. They're like, hey, what'd you do last night? I'm like, nothing much. I just, I spent the night over at Jimmy's house and we played video games. They're like, you hear Tyler Hadley killed his parents? He's like, oh, no.
Isn't that a kid you go to school with?
Yeah, don't you go to school with that boy? Killed him, threw him in his parents' bedroom, had a party at his house. Kids were partying in the house. Parents were dead right down the hallway. And he's like, that is crazy and also very new information.
And then he just went, and then of course it spread like wild. Everybody calling each other. And there is a bunch of stuff out there about like people and their tasteless comments after the event and the court and the trial and stuff, and people acting like it's so cool. I'm not going to waste my time talking about that. That's crappy.
Yeah.
Is it historical because people were murdered? Sure. It's not cool.
No.
It's not neat. It's not a fun anecdote. It's tragic.
Very tragic.
I'm not going to talk about any of that.
Yeah. So, and as we get to the kind of closing of the show to this episode, we know that if you listen to the part 1, obviously Tyler is arrested. And basically, kind of the long story short on that deal is that he is convicted of the murder of both of his parents, and he's sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Later on, there would be an appeals judge, I believe, or an appeals court of some type that overturned the sentence, basically because they said that the judge did not maybe weigh his options on.
It fell into the cruel and unusual punishment because he's so young.
Yeah, he's 17.
Right.
And this is a death penalty state. Florida is a death penalty state, but they also had a law in place that 17-year-olds could not receive the death penalty. Right.
And I think during this time is also when they decided that you couldn't sentence a juvenile to life.
Yeah.
And so it gets retried.
Yeah, they redo the sentencing part of it.
Oh yeah, the sentencing,
and
not retried.
So it's not a full trial. They don't go through the whole rigmarole of the actual trial, but they are going to do some pieces of it because you have to figure out, was the original sentence accurate? So they're going to go through and bring everybody, bring some people back in, talk about some things. You're going to get to do victim impact again, which from what I understand, the family is not too happy with him.
Yeah.
As to be expected. And later on, it's determined that he got life again, but this time it is with the possibility of parole.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure exactly what it is in Florida, what the time is, but if he does end up getting paroled, he's going to be an older man. It's not going to be something like a kid's 35 years old and he got paroled out of jail.
Yeah.
I mean, at the best case scenario, I would think he would be a middle-aged to older man before he was ever even given the opportunity, which he's not going to get out on his first shot. So, I mean,
I don't think so either.
No, it's going to take him a while. But anyways, so we wanted to I remember Mike and I were talking about this case a couple weeks ago, and Mike had brought it up to me before we had even talked about doing the case or the podcast or anything. I remember him talking about this case specifically because it's so crazy. Because when you think about it, the dude killed his parents to throw a party.
Yeah.
I know I've already said that 10 times, but it still just blows my mind. But anyways, we wanted to do the case and get it on there. We got a good one coming up for y'all next week, and we can't wait to do that one. Sorry for the delay.
Yeah, apologies.
As we talked about in the beginning of the episode, but we got crazy schedules.
Oh, we do. Yeah, I can't say it won't happen again, but we try to keep it from happening as much as possible.
Yeah, and I may what I might do is if we get if something comes up in between the episodes, maybe throw something out there that'll pop up in there as like maybe a bonus episode. But it might just be me. If Mike can't make it, obviously we can't do the debrief. Maybe I can just talk about something that's going on currently in the news, crime stories in the news, something like that. Get the episode out. It won't pop up as an episode, 53 or whatever. It may just pop up as like a bonus or something. But I'll look into that and see if I can't maybe get one or two of them recorded.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I think that's a good way to fill in the gaps.
Have them on standby.
Yeah, if I'm getting off at dang near 5 o'clock, which is about the time that we start, then
5:30, and then but you have to go to bed at like 7:30.
Yeah,
which is quickly approaching.
Yeah, it's literally my bedtime.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll leave it there for this week, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thank y'all for tuning in to the episode.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah, we'll see you later. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to this episode of The Murder Project. Our numbers are going up, our downloads are going up, and we have you guys to thank for that. If you're looking for us on any of the social media platforms, you can find us on Facebook. We're at The Murder Project. If you need to search for us, we're at facebook.com/podcasttmp. If you're looking for us on Instagram, we're at The Murder Project. And if you're looking for us on Twitter, we are at The Murder Pod. Also, don't forget, go over to whatever platform you're listening on, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if they have it. If you're listening on Spotify, hit that 5 stars. If you're listening on Apple, go over there, hit that 5 stars, hit the subscribe button, and leave us a review. We would appreciate it so much. And thank you to everyone who has done that so far.
Yeah, thank you very much.
If you have a longer form question or comment and you need to reach out to us, we have an email address that is contact@themurderproject.com. And as always, Mike or myself will get back to you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to this episode. We look forward to speaking to you in the future. But before we go, please remember,
head up, eyes up,
and stay alive.